The ideal body fat percentage for ladies is between probably 18 and 26%. That'd be a good general rule. The older you are, of course, upper end of that. Men, somewhere between 10 and 16 or 17 is not a bad thing. Older you are, upper end. Younger you are, lower end.
Well, I think sometimes once we pass those life checkpoints, if you will, things can come with a little bit of baggage. There can be a lot of grief. There can be things that we're holding on from the past. And then when we age, oftentimes we aren't quite as satisfied with how we look or how we feel.
That jurisdiction of the sheriff is really the most powerful guard and protector of the rights of the people than any other institution our founders created here.
Today's topic, we're going to talk about this thing called belly fat. And we know that belly fat is oftentimes toxic fat because it's around the organs. And when belly fat gets into the organs, it can create significant compromise.
Well, it can. And we've spent probably hours and really decades talking about this accumulation of belly fat. And I think giving people some real tips on how to reduce that is critical. And it is something that can be reduced. And as we age, the tendency to have it more accumulated and harder to get off the body is common. So, no matter where you are in the aging process, there's some steps here that's going to work for you. If you're not a person who has belly fat, these steps will help you prevent it as well.
Well, and just because you don't look like you have belly fat, you might want to get on what we call a body composition analysis machine so that you can actually see how much fat you have and if it's in your organs, because we've seen very, very skinny people actually have visceral fat. That's surprising when we evaluate them through body composition analysis.
Yeah, and just so people know that the ideal body fat percentage for ladies is between probably 18 and 26%. That'd be a good general rule. The older you are, of course, upper end of that. Men, somewhere between 10 and 16 or 17 is not a bad thing. Older you are, upper end. Younger you are, lower end.
So one of the most important things that we can do to optimize body composition is dietary or nutritional. I hate to use the word diet because the first three letters of the word diet are DIE. And we want people to have long-term behavioral change and have a relationship with food and enjoy it. So nutritional habits are very, very important in getting rid of that little bit of extra belly fat. And oftentimes we have to get rid of the sugars, the white flours, the white breads, the white grains, all of the whites. If we just stop all the white stuff and get rid of the sugary drinks, that's a big step in the right direction.
It is. And if people just do that right there, is it perfect? No. But is it a step in the right direction? Yes. And so there you go. Tip number one is to reduce all the sugary drinks and then the white things like the white rices and the white potatoes and all that kind of stuff.
What about when should we stop eating at night?
Probably give yourself at minimum a 2 or greater gap between the time you eat your last meal and take your last bite and the time you lie down. The worst thing to do for people, if they want to gain belly fat, would be to eat late, lie down immediately. Don't do that. The ideal thing to do is stop eating your last meal, take your last bite, 2 hours or more before you lie down.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You said 2 hours or more. If you're going down to sleep on a full stomach, that is a stressor.
Totally.
And your body is really not cleaning itself during the night like it should, so it's under stress during the night. And another way to get rid of that extra belly fat is to monitor or keep a finger on the pulse of your cortisol levels. Now, people are going, well, what are cortisol levels? Can you give us some tips on cortisol?
Well, yeah, when you have an emotion or a thought of fear, anxiety, that's going to immediately produce cortisol. Traffic jams, hearing a negative report on media, getting injured, those things produce cortisol. eating late and lying down produces cortisol. Key thing, and why this is important, is when cortisol is produced in abundance in the body, we will not break down our food appropriately. Therefore, that equates to more potential storage of body fat.
Yes. You know, I absolutely love taking care of ladies in the clinic. Perimenopausal, postmenopausal, premenopausal. When hormones become imbalanced, that is one of the main triggers for putting on this little belly fat. That's not just true for ladies, it's also true for males.
Totally. There is a ton of scenarios today where men are becoming lower production of testosterone earlier in life. I suppose it's probably because of, diet and toxins and stress and lack of sleep and stuff like that. And they're getting this andropause where their production of androgens are pausing, which is similar to menopause. Menopause can be, obviously the menstrual cycle's pause, but that's when a lady has a surgery of some sort. Even a partial hysterectomy will sort of force that issue. And then certainly when they stop producing hormones. But the absence of hormones, this is key for men and women, the absence of hormones equates to a higher risk of belly fat and even heart and brain and bone disease.
Yeah, this conversation is just ringing the bells in my head about hormones. You talked about leptin, we've talked about carbohydrates and insulin. Now we've talked about estrogen and testosterone. So hormone balance is very, very important to helping regulate this thing called body fat. At what age should somebody have their hormones checked?
Honestly, today, I think men in their 30s. I really do. And I think ladies probably in their 30s too. Obviously, ladies might before that because stress can do a number on a lady's menstrual cycles. I was talking to a lady just the other day, and she was like saying, well, I hadn't had a period in X number of months. Is there something wrong? And then I started digging into her background, and she's really a high-level athlete, exercise highly intensely, and she was even doing 2-a-days. And I said, well, this is why, because your body through cortisol, stress, is interpreting that as being chased perpetually by a bear. And obviously, it wouldn't be wise for your body if, while being chased by a bear, you all of a sudden decided to want to produce a baby because the bear's going to eat the whole darn family. And she's like, oh, I get it. So really, I shouldn't worry about it. The answer is, don't worry about it. But maybe the stress is creating that process. But perhaps, late 20s, early 30s for men and women would be wisdom.
So we've talked about nutrition. We know exercise plays a huge, huge role in it as well. We got to move more, sit less.
Yep.
We got to have good hormone balance. It's good to check our labs at a certain point in our lives. And then what about there's certain supplements that can really help either be appetite suppressants or kind of help us burn a little bit of extra belly fat, like the DHEAs of the world and some of the bitter oranges that kind of help, tone down appetite.
Yeah, there's a bunch of little supplements that can help, and you reach out to us. We got a bunch of them there. You mentioned DHEA, Thermo EFX, which has some bitter orange in it. We got something called EndoTrim. We got a whole gamut of stuff to help people lose body fat, including these tips. So the bottom line is you don't have to have the excess body fat around, and if you do, we just gave some answers. So please consider reaching out to us. Check us out on our website at sherwood.tv, or you can check out our clinic by calling the number on the website too. We're glad to help you.
How do we find love even past the age of 65? We want to live and love well.
We can. You're never too old to learn to love.
And when you navigate through these economies with people, here's what happens. We want to hold their hand through it, let them know when it's time to buy, sell, reallocate, get out of Dodge. Because a lot of times when you're struck with fear does two things. Number one, it can paralyze, and people just put their head in the sand and say, I'm just going to forget about it and hopefully it gets better. Or it causes you to make a wrong decision. And this is why we are here, is to help people navigate through the political quagmire nonsense that's going on, the economic malaise, and the absolute collapse that we're seeing. And when our freedoms are eroding, our political freedoms, our economic freedoms, our personal freedoms, our religious freedoms, our health freedoms, they're all tied together. But you know what doesn't need to erode with that? Our finances.
KirkElliottPhD.com/Sherwood.
Exploring biohacking, bioharmonizing, biosynergizing, stacking, resilience, or anti-fragility?
Start here. No gimmicks, just proven results.
Hey there, Kevin Sorbo here. Now, deep down, we know this. We're more than just a brain and a body. We're a spirit, we're a soul, and we're also a physical temple. If you hit the wall when you're trying to improve one aspect of your being, it's probably because, well, other aspects are sabotaging our success. So that's why diets don't work. And frankly, why so much conventional wisdom from our so-called medical establishments falls flat. Doctors Michele and Mark Sherwood have a very different approach. I should know because I happen to be one of their patients. They address the whole person to get to know you, your challenges, and more importantly, what your goals are. Then they offer a complete plan that addresses your unique biology and your heart. They'll help you discover what you need to experience transformation. So find out more at sherwood.tv/Sorbo. That's sherwood.tv/Sorbo, or see the link before. Now, I'm heading for a workout. You should be going for a workout too. All right, guys. God bless.
Let's shine the spotlight on one of our star supplements.
The human body can make most of the types of fats it needs from other fats or raw materials, but not omega-3 fatty acids, also called omega-3 fats or N3 fats.
These are essential fats that the body must get from food.
Biomega 1000 provides a potent dose of omega-3 essential fatty acids sourced from a strategically placed fishing facility in the far South Pacific Ocean off the coast of Chile.
Each capsule delivers an impressive 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA, and the capsules also contain vitamin E. See the link below for a special offer, and remember, don't be fooled by cheap online knockoffs. You know, when the clock ticks 50 years of age, that's one thing. But when the clock ticks 60, that's an even bigger thing. So when we're trying to maybe find a new relationship at that age, is that really possible?
Well, yes. Interestingly enough, when you started talking about those ages, I started thinking about, well, whoa, what age am I? But ultimately, the idea about finding love and being loved and giving love there's no age with that. I mean, whether you're 70 or 17, I suppose you can find, receive, and give that love you're talking about.
Well, I think sometimes once we pass those life checkpoints, if you will, things can come with a little bit of baggage. There can be a lot of grief. There can be things that we're holding on from the past. And then when we age, oftentimes we aren't as satisfied with how we look or how we feel. So we might be a little bit intimidated, a little less confident, yet unless we step our foot out there, we're not going to find love unless we go looking for it.
It's funny, like I was thinking with age, there's two things that happen, right? Hopefully they happen anyway. Number one, you gain a little bit of wisdom and experience. That's a good thing. But number two, I guarantee this happens. The longer you live, the more baggage you have. And what is baggage, right? I think that the best advice I've given people, because we've had that a lot happen. People will come into our clinic, and they'll be trying to refine their health a little bit, and they'll find love. Sometimes they find in the clinic. We've actually married a couple people, and so they'll ask questions. You end up putting like your clinician hat on one day and your counselor hat on the other. But a lot of times I've told them to not be afraid of their baggage, but to take their bag of baggage, give that to the person they're considering spending their life with, and allowing that person to sort through at their speed, at their leisure, and the time they want to sort through that baggage, because it's okay. Because the more you live, the more you learn, and the more you go through. Some of it's not worth, some of it's terrible because you go through pain. Some of it, you make dumb mistakes, dumb decisions. But sometimes you learn some good things. And in that baggage, it's not all bad. There's experience there. And people can find some blessing in that, And so all that said, baggage can yield pain, but baggage can also yield wisdom. And as you age, that can become a great blessing and a great gift to give somebody else as well.
Well, and one of the things that we do when we talk to somebody about their genetics is we have them read what's called positive word speak. And in order to really get out there in the dating world, maybe 50, 60, 65 plus, you need to be confident with yourself. So speaking positively about yourself in the mirror to yourself every day, like, I am a woman or man of great integrity, of great confidence. I love my life. I set healthy boundaries. I walk confidently through this life. You start thinking that way, then you're more likely to put yourself into certain circumstances, like maybe going out to a bowling alley for fun, or maybe going to the fair, maybe putting yourself in certain social situations that you normally wouldn't do. So that's called a little bit of risk taking, but you have to be confident in your skin first.
Well, you do. And just because you have an age attached to you based upon chronology or your calendar or your watch, who cares? Age is just a number. But love has no number attached to it, does it? So as long as you have breath, I look at it like this. As long as you have breath, you have an idea of being able to give to the world something. And you, sir, ma'am, have the ability to give no matter how you are. So if you're out there and you're single and you're getting a little bit of age on your frame and life, who cares? I simply say this to you. Just embrace that and realize there's probably somebody out there that would appreciate what you have to give, and somebody out there that's looking for that person as well. So, seek it out, and I think go for it.
Well, and I remember I didn't meet you, the love of my life, until after about 48 years. And one of the things that I did that was very, very powerful is I sat down and I made a list of all of the character traits that I wanted to have in a mate. And sometimes the things of the past, we learn from those relationships from the things of the past, the things that we don't want in a new relationship. So defining the things that you absolutely want in a relationship and clarifying them on paper can help you find the right person at the right time.
I guess I passed. She made the list. Hey, don't forget to watch the movie, The Prayer List. You can find that out there everywhere. That's actually the story that's made into a real life movie of our story. And we talk about the prayer list, the list you made with prayer of the kind of person you wanted to have in your life. And, I guess a couple of days after you made the list, I guess I walked in the door, right?
You did walk in the door, and it was very,
yes.
Yeah, and it's been a success ever since. Had I not made that list, I was grieving and wanting and needing a partner, somebody by my side. And I had a friend say to me, what do you want in a partner? If you don't know, how are you ever going to find the right person? So that clarification of what you're looking for and what you want to have in your life that's going to complement you to create an interdependent relationship or an independent relationship is very important.
Yeah, and maybe as you age out there, you learned what you don't want as much as what you do want. So that makes your list that you might make a little more viable and believable. So, all that said, there is love to be found later in life. I don't believe that God made people to be on this earth to be all alone. He did say it is not good for a man or a woman to be alone. So, hey, if you're older, who cares? Just go out there and seek a little love, and you never know what you might find. What does our Constitution really mean? Find out next with our constitutional attorney expert, Chris Ann Hull.
Let's get real. Most emergency food is just as bad for you as any other choice in the standard American diet. And that's just sad.
We don't just need food. We need highly nutritional food.
We don't just want to survive food shortages. We are meant to thrive in adversity.
Complete your daily nutrition and have shelf-stable Kingdom Fuel as a cornerstone of your food supply.
Don't sacrifice your health or your taste buds.
Stock up on Kingdom Fuel now.
And when you navigate through these economies with people, here's what happens. We want to hold their hand through it, let them know when it's time to buy, sell, reallocate, get out of Dodge. Because a lot of times when you're struck with fear does two things. Number one, it can paralyze. and people just put their head in the sand and say, I'm just going to forget about it and hopefully it gets better. Or it causes you to make a wrong decision. And this is why we are here, is to help people navigate through the political quagmire nonsense that's going on, the economic malaise and the absolute collapse that we're seeing. And when our freedoms are eroding, our political freedoms, our economic freedoms, our personal freedoms, our religious freedoms, our health freedoms, they're all tied together. But you know what doesn't need to erode with that? Our finances.
KirkElliottPhD.com/Sherwood.
Let's shine the spotlight on one of our star supplements.
The human body can make most of the types of fats it needs from other fats or raw materials, but not omega-3 fatty acids, also called omega-3 fats or N3 fats.
These are essential fats that the body must get from food.
Biomega 1000 provides a potent dose of omega-3 essential fatty acids sourced from a strategically placed fishing facility in the far South Pacific Ocean off the coast of Chile.
Each capsule delivers an impressive 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA, and the capsules also contain vitamin E. See the link below for a special offer, and remember, don't be fooled by cheap online knockoffs.
We have a brand new documentary out called Non-Compliant to the Sheriff. Now, our first documentary, Non-Compliant, and our second documentary, Non-Compliant 2, are both available at noncompliantmovie.com. The first documentary is all about the duty and the role of the state to be a check and balance on the federal government, state and local government. So if you haven't seen that yet, let me please recommend that you go to noncompliantmovie.com and watch the first documentary, available to you at no cost. It is going to be life-changing, and we have hundreds of thousands of 5-star reviews and people all over the world sending us messages about how this message is so life-changing. And it's a global message because, really, it's about your inherent rights. It's about why government is designed for one purpose. The purpose is to secure your rights, and how our founders put together our governments in order to retain the power by the people to be a check and balance on government through state and local government. And from that, we were inspired to create Non-Compliant to the Sheriff. Now, I have been for, nearly a decade traveling around the country teaching sheriffs and deputies a 3-hour continuing education course all about the role and the duty of the sheriff, the history of the sheriff's role and duty to secure our rights, not to violate them. We have a whole section on the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, what our sheriffs and their deputies need to know not to be sued. And then we have a section on the jurisdiction of the sheriff, which is so incredibly important. That jurisdiction of the sheriff is really the most powerful guard and protector of the rights of the people than any other institution our founders created here in these United States of America through our constitutional republic. And it's from that course that I had sheriffs telling me, this is inspirational. What you've taught us in these 3 hours is just simply life-changing. As a matter of fact, I've taught this at big conferences where I taught the sheriffs of 17 states all at one time. And I had sheriffs coming up to me immediately before I even got off the stage saying, I've been on the phone changing policies already based on what we learned from you. And we thought to ourselves, you know what? We need the people to know this information. We need the people to know this, number one, so that they can make sure the candidates they have for sheriff, know the proper role and duty of the sheriff, so we can be sure to have constitutionally minded sheriffs. Number two, because if you have a constitutional sheriff, if the body of the people are not in support of that sheriff cannot be who they want to be and who they're required to be. And number three, it empowers sheriffs who already have that inclination. In a world that is full of propaganda like defund the police and all of our law enforcement is evil, you see it all over the news, you see wicked politicians propagating this stuff. We knew we had to create non-compliant to the sheriff to show people what's really happening at the level of the sheriff that the media will not show you. There are sheriffs all over America who are standing up in defiance of unconstitutional laws and orders and edicts, in defense of the property rights of the people, and they've been doing this for years. But the politicians and the media do not want you to know this. They do not want you to know what sheriffs are doing successfully, regularly, to stand for people's rights, because this is how government's supposed to really, really work. Now, what we do with non-compliant too is we take two real-life situations, two events that actually happened. A pastor who refused to shut down his church over COVID, and a sheriff who arrested him for it. And a pastor who refused to shut down for COVID, and a sheriff who said, I'll go to jail to keep you open. And how this two incidents actually impacted and changed their states, and even all of these United States, all boiled down to what a sheriff would or would not do. This film is brand new, available at noncompliantmovie.com only right now. Pretty soon we're going to make it available on DVD, so maybe by the time you see this, it will be available on DVD at noncompliantmovie.com. But we're already getting messages about how this is life-changing. And to be honest, if you share this with your sheriff might be one who has watched this movie and come back to us and asked us to come and train their deputies. noncompliantmovie.com. It will be life-changing.
Exploring biohacking, bioharmonizing, biosynergizing, stacking, resilience, or anti-fragility?
Start here. No gimmicks, just proven results.